pull up my... build thread.
What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Wednesday night live stream. Ryan, we're live. How you doing, buddy?
We're live.
I'm
great. How are you doing?
Wonderful, thank you. So we are both proud owners of lovely Peninsula Aquariums, and today we figure we go into the good, bad, the ugly, the wonderful, the pro tips, and all the things you got to consider with the Peninsula reef tank.
Yeah, I think there was far more to consider than I did.
That's fair. Do you actually? This is the heavy hitter question at first. If you did it again, would you do a Peninsula again, or would you do a standard tank?
Would I would not do the setup I have now.
Yeah.
I would do a Peninsula, but at the size I've got now, I would want a dedicated fish room behind it.
That's fair. That would be nice. That's the dream, I think, for everyone.
So, and we'll go into that. I got a list because I knew I'd miss some things.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I would do a Peninsula again, but I think there's a lot that I would change, and there's a lot I am changing.
Oh, that you are changing. Okay. Actually, yes. To start out, what is your current setup?
So my current setup right now is a glass cages, 250 gallon. It's 72 long by 36 wide by 22 inches tall. Joe took care of me and made the tank just beautifully. I did the smoked Euro brace all around it, the waterline concealer.
Fancy.
Yeah, we went all out when Joe and I were talking about building that. Pictures in my build thread, which is over on Reef to Reef. But anyway, it's on an aluminum stand that Chris Benner got for me. He did the BRS 160.
Yeah,
he did their stand and those things. So he hooked me up with the company out of Wisconsin. They did the aluminum stand.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably, I love that thing and I hate that thing, and we'll get into that later as well.
Is it welded aluminum or extruded aluminum?
Extruded, just like T-slot. Most of it is 40-80 and 40-40, so it's very stout.
Nice. That's, you know what? I have never had a fully extruded aluminum stand, but the fact that you could just add on mounts and like T-slots actually seems really cool to me.
Yeah, there's been some stuff I've really liked about it. One of the tougher things has actually been attaching things to it. Like you can get the little, I think they're just called T-nuts.
Yeah.
The T-nuts, the screws, and kind of start attaching stuff that way, but skinning it still has not happened. It's been up a year and a half, and I've tried to figure out how to skin it, and I kind of have an idea. And it's just not working out as well as I'd like.
I feel like there should be easy ways to skin the T-slot. For quick shout out, John Reefer, thank you so much for the super chat. Today's tuition. If I don't learn anything tonight, I want a refund. You always will learn something. Appreciate it, John. Thank you. So my initial thought in my head was like, oh, you could totally 3D print like something that goes in the T-slot and holds a couple magnets, and you could just have like a magnet stand that clips to it. But
yeah, so I looked originally at, they actually make them. They attach right in, and I don't remember what they're called anymore. But there's magnets. There's also like a pot. What's it called? Like a little. It's like a little circle, and it clips down in, and it secures it like a clip. Yeah. And I was gonna do that, but then the way I'm skinning it, they're only 1/2 inch thick. It's the PVC board.
Yeah.
Like all the adaptive reef stuff makes his stuff out of that. I wanted that so there's no wood that could possibly have issues. But anyway, it's 1/2 inch thick, and they almost needed, I want to say, like a 1/2 inch to set down in.
Yeah.
And so I was like, if I go less than that. So I played back and forth, and I ended up going with French cleats.
Yeah.
On that, and I've just never actually hooked them in. I think once I do, it'll be a lot better.
Hmm. That's
But
fair.
there's just so many other things I'm changing right now. Getting the skin on is not.
If it makes you feel any better, my office one is still just the frame.
Yeah, just wide
Yeah.
open.
In a
Yeah,
way,
so
I like it. It's kind of nice to just look at things. Like I worried a little bit with the kid, but at the same time, I just don't let him in my office without me, so it
yeah,
works.
and for now that works
Yeah.
until they're totally mobile and you can't keep track of them 24/7. And
Oh, that's already there.
yeah, and
Yeah.
thankfully, my kid has been wonderful with the aquarium.
Nice.
He understands that it's all life support. They
Hmm.
die, I kind of maybe drilled it in a little heavy,
Yeah.
but it keeps him away. He doesn't ever try to add stuff or touch any of the
That's good.
controls of the buttons. So he's been great about that.
That's awesome. So, okay. So the peninsula beside me is kind of cheating because it's in like normal tank mode, even though it's a peninsula tank. When it's an actual peninsula, like in my opinion, flow is the trickiest part in a peninsula tank. Assuming
But
you want to keep those three sides pristine at least.
Yep, number one right there, top of my list.
Yep. By far the biggest challenge. So what are you doing for flow? Actually, okay, what did you say your dimensions were again?
72 by 36, and then 22 high.
That's sweet dimensions. Okay, so what are you doing for flow in your tank?
So I have two MP60s
Yep.
on the back wall. For anyone listening, I think Devin and I would agree when we start talking about a peninsula tank, the back wall is obviously the wall that's against your home wall or wherever. And I always say the front of the tank is technically the shortest viewing side, but that's the front. Whenever I'm talking about, that's the front.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got those two on the back, the return pumps, which obviously I don't count as flow. But they are probably, my return pumps are my main surface agitation with I got those wide flare nozzles on them. So that's my surface agitation mostly, although the Vortex do a bunch.
Yeah.
And then an update from last time, I remember someone commented in that video. You were showing my video of my tank, and they said the Vortex looked low because I can't keep sand on half of my tank. It does not matter what I do. I can't keep sand on the one half, and so it looks horrible. So I moved the Vortex as high as I can, because here's another mistake, is all my plumbing that comes out of the back wall. It really limits where I can put power heads and what I can do
Yes.
on that back. And I've got an external overflow. And so I've got a huge box out the back. Then I got 3 1.5-inch pipes. And then I've got 2 returns, one on each side. And so it's very limited real estate back there to get anything. And as you know, MP60 back, the wet side or the dry sides, they're beefy.
On my custom ones, I actually had the plumbing go a couple inches so that it would just fit the dry side in between it.
Yep. And I got lucky. My buddy was up here helping me plumb it. And we were putting in the return pipes, and I don't even know what happened, but it's very true. When you put on the PVC glue and then you push the 2 fittings together, so when you're pushing the one pipe into the bulkhead, we didn't keep enough pressure like right at the beginning. I think it was me. Total amateur mistake there. And it pushed out just a little bit before I caught it, and I hurried and slammed it back together. Yeah. But that mistake bought me enough room to get the MP60
bonus
dry side up there. So I wish I'd have made the same mistake on the other side.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Hey, it's kind of a mini blessing in disguise.
If you're out there thinking about putting, and this could go even for a normal tank, not just Peninsula, but if you're thinking about putting Vortex on the backside, your back wall, plan where your returns and your piping are going to be, because they can interfere with your flow. Major problems.
My original one actually had like 1/4-inch glass strips with Velcro to like hold my little cover to hide the overflow on it. And I remember it was like the smidges too big, so I actually like chiseled out a little bit of the glass, like the silicone on trim to fit the edge of the driver. The things we go through. Because it popped into my mind. On my original one, I used MP40s, and like pro tip, you can use hot glue, and if your glass is thicker than it's rated for the MP40, I actually did glue like kind of on the bottom, like half circle, like moon shape of it, to like basically glue the dry side to the tank because it was like thicker than it was rated for, and then it worked, and it still had enough strength to couple it, just not enough to hold the dry side up on its own. So that was my little hack, and it worked to use it on more than it's rated, so it worked.
So that's what I'm doing for flow, and it's a battle. I mean, every tank, as they get older in their life, flow really does become, I think, probably your biggest battle. Because as they grow in, something gets blocked.
Yeah.
And so you're trying to figure out, how do I get flow there? It usually means blasting something else or, cutting something back. But on a peninsula, you can take your flow problems and just make them tenfold worse. Because I'm like you. I know we're the same. I'm not putting stuff out on the viewing side on that panel. Why even have a peninsula if I've got to have power heads out there? Like,
if I didn't have a floating light bar and I had the light bar like the Ecotech style, like the U-shaped one on both edges, I would consider putting a gyre just at the very top of the water line and hiding that wire all up the light rail. That's like the only situation I could think of where it would be, I would put a power head on the far side because it'd be very minimal. Like, it'd still be there, but that's the only thing I could think of that I would consider.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, obviously, if you put a big old power head on the end, that is going to be It's going to distract from the look. But a wire, if you have to try and figure out how to snake a wire, especially if it's in water because you can't hide it somewhere. I tried it with some tunes pumps, and you're not hiding the wire. I mean, there's just no way, and it looks just horrible.
Yeah, exactly, right? Wires are not pretty. It takes away.
And so, that's one of the things I'd consider. If I'm getting a peninsula, if you want flow on the far end, start considering how you're going to get something over there. If you put a canopy over the tank, like a full-blown canopy, that's going to be a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you have some power heads just up in the corner, whatever.
And I like, too, how, some people will take, like, if you have Eurobrace, they'll put the magnet on the top of it and, like, sink it down a little bit so you don't even see it on the glass. It's just inside the tank a bit. I think that's a cool way to work a peninsula as well, if you do have that set up.
And I would highly, highly encourage, if you can figure out a way to do it, and consider a closed loop.
Yeah.
Something hasn't been popular the last decade plus. Those were huge when I started the hobby. But then again, we didn't have Vortex then. We didn't. I think we had tunes.
I've always been scared to drill a hole in the bottom of a couple 100 gallons of water. Like, that's the reason I never did. I've considered it. I was like, if that ever leaks, that's a lot of water. However, I mean, you're probably pretty safe.
You could also probably, it depends on how you want to close it. That's why I say look into it, because there's a lot of ways to implement them. You could probably drill off the back wall and have it so where it's sucking, up higher. But again, everything you do, there's going to be a compromise. There's going to be a possibility. Closed loops, obviously, like you said, a hole in the bottom, one leak is a lot of water. Yeah.
Although, if I ever went bigger and custom, I would probably consider doing it on the next one. I think I'm over being scared of it. I'd probably just do it. But it is a big consideration.
I figure once you've brought the aquarium into your house, you kind of have to consider that a flood of 250, 300 gallons is going to happen. Just accept it.
One day?
Just accept it, though. You know what I'm saying? It's like we can do everything we want, but you just never know. You never know when one seam doesn't hold and you're not there.
That's fair. John, why the obsession with power heads when you have an amazing tank to watch? Because you don't want anything obstructing your pristine view of your amazing tank. Now, Macy's daddy, the front end of the tank is naturally perfect for lower flow coral. 100% agree, and that's partially how I kind of plan mine. Is it's more zoas and like softy stuff. Like it's acro heavy, then it gets more softy heavy, and more LPSy the further you go. And placement is a big consideration with your scape and your coral placement at Peninsula as well.
Yeah, that's number right here on my list. Coral placement.
Yeah.
I thought, hey, here's kind of what I wanted. And then I kind of rushed getting the tank going because I was transferring over from a 120 gallon that was in a bedroom in the basement, and I kind of want to get that bedroom back to being a bedroom for the house instead of just being my tanks. And I kind of thought, oh, I'll just place this here, place that there. And as I kind of started chucking stuff in, it just kind of stayed where I put it, and it's not a good location. And so that's part of what I want to change. I really want to tear out all of my coral, fix rock work, and replace it all.
Full overhaul, eh? So
yeah,
when I did mine, two things that I did. Now keep in mind, I spent probably a month on my aquascape because I didn't have the tank yet. So it was like every day I would just go out and change it. I had a big chunk of glass on my deck, and I'd escape on it and just keep tweaking it. But I started on the overflow wall. I started higher and kind of slowly tiered it down. One, so when you look at the far end of the tank, you get kind of more of a view as it going up. And then the other part of it was same thing. I was like, okay, higher light, acros, higher flow. Okay, you're closer to the power heads, and as it tiers down, it's less light and less flow. But yeah, for the coral placement though, that's the big thing, right? You got to kind of keep that as mind. Like, of course, I broke some of those rules, and I still have acros at the far end and stuff. But I mean, they're happy enough, so it's working. Now. My current worry is like my tank's getting pretty filled in. And if I don't do a little bit of bonsaiing at some point, I mean, it is going to start blocking more and more of the flow. And the other consideration is some of the branches that grow in front of an MP60 are just getting blasted with crazy flow. And it like literally, takes off some of the flesh on that side of the branch on a few of them that are like far too close to the power head. So
considerations. Yeah, if you're getting into a peninsula, I think your aquascaping is even more important than, just a standard tank. It's because you really, when you get a standard tank, and don't get me wrong, they're absolutely gorgeous, you really just have one side. You can kind of have the other two sides, but most people don't really care what the back side of that rockwork looks like.
Yeah.
With your peninsula, you can't skimp there.
Well,
you've got two sides.
Double-edged sword. Like one, it's more work to aquascape it because it has to look good on both sides, right? Not just one. But the bonus, you kind of get a second tank in the same tank.
Yep.
Which is kind of fun.
Yeah. So, I mean, the peninsula is an awesome idea of a tank. I do enjoy it. But yeah, you have to plan that because both sides have to look good.
Yeah.
Well, really three sides. When you're on the short end on the front looking through, for me, 6 feet of water, and I think you're at 6 feet on yours, that's one of the best views there is.
Oh, yeah.
Because to me, and I say this kind of loosely, but that's kind of the closest we get to that ocean. It just goes. It just keeps going and going until you find, the back wall. But it's like, that's a very different view than only having to make sure it looks good a foot into the tank.
I do love that view. If I was to do it again, like I'm very content with the 6 feet. It's a nice length, but I would almost go wider. Like yours is 30 inches?
36.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. I only got 2 feet. You got an extra foot of width, which is pretty awesome.
Yes, I do like that. If you can swing it, I think it'd be pretty cool to go to 48.
Ooh, that would be cool.
That extra foot, you think 36 is pretty wide until, you're really working in there and you want to keep everything 6, 8, 10 inches off the glass on both sides. And all of a sudden you're sitting there and you're going, I got 20 inches in the middle here. Like, yeah, because I just want to keep everything open. You got to keep it open for the fish. You got to keep it open for the flow. So 48 would be cool.
That would be awesome. See, now for me, even if I had a wider tank, having just more your rock in the middle and more outside space is a big win. Because now that my tank is growing in so much, there's corals, I can barely get my algae scraper by on some parts because it's so close to the glass. So that's the other consideration with the peninsula, because you have your tank, so wide, your escape's in the middle, but all your corals are going to grow outwards and outwards. So you need to keep that consideration for long-term growth as well.
Yeah, with that, get used to with a peninsula, it's way more glass to clean.
True.
And so any corals or anything that are in your way, is that much more of a pain. You know, if you have frag racks that you just, you know, are on a normal tank, maybe you put them on the back wall and they can just sit back there,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but on the back wall for me, mine's, you know, it's pretty easy to get to,
Yeah.
but I've got the overflow there. And so it blocks light. So to have a frag rack back there isn't very easy.
That's fair.
And so if you put it on the side glass, it's really in your way and it's in your viewing way.
Yep.
You know, it's in the view the whole time.
I no longer put frag racks in my tanks just because it takes away from it. I used to in my early days of reefing, but now I'm like, no, they can go in the sun. We can go somewhere else. But
I have one on the back wall, and it's from the corals. I literally couldn't place somewhere in the tank without, you know, and I sold most of them off of there. I have a few left. I actually saved one of my corals was doing great with the transfer. A highlighter acro. It was just early on, it was going crazy, and then all of a sudden, just started RTNing on me.
Yeah,
so I immediately reached in, snipped off a branch up off the top, put it on a plug, and it's happy as can be on that frag rack now. And I want to replant it somewhere, but I'm still in that, like, I really need to tear this down and start over phase. So
yep, no, agreed. I was laughing. Steven's comment autocorrect. He goes, "I hate gray racks." I'm like, "How about the black ones?" Yeah, it really does take away. Like, even if you have a section in your sump to like hide your frag racks, just like taking all that clutter out of your display just makes it look so much more pristine.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't wait to get the frag rack out of there. I probably should get the coral back up for sale. There's just a couple pieces that I have left that I just don't think I'm going to use. I've got giant hammers and frog spawns that are all on the short end of the tank.
Yeah.
And so they just sit, you know, back and you can just see their flesh all over the skeleton.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I want to cut those in half, frag them up a bunch, sell them off, and then move them to the very far end where there's very low flow. Because I have a torch coral down there that's awesome. I love it down on the far end. It loves the flow down there. Most of the SPS are growing back towards the flow.
Yeah.
So I'm in that, like,
Isn't
let's
that
just swap things.
Is that semi weird? Like, intuitively, yeah, I would think it would grow away from the flow, not into the flow.
Yeah, but they love the flow. I mean, you know, when people say what's the most important things in kind of, you know, what order do you put most important? And I always say water chemistry number one, because that's what we keep. We keep water.
Yeah.
But number two is flow. I find flow is 100 times more important than lighting.
Yeah.
Because flow, I think, it might have been Jake Adams. He came to, we used to have here in Utah, they called it the Rocky Mountain Frag Fest. We had out here for a few years. It was kind of a conference they were trying to get going. But Jake came out and gave a talk on flow. And at that time, he was using Maxi Jet 1200s.
Yeah.
And he had 4 of them in the tank, and he'd turn 2 on to create a gyre one way, and then he'd switch it up and go the other. But he said, if you want to know if flow or lighting is more important, go turn off your flow for 3 days and come back and tell me what you find alive.
Death.
He goes, turn off your lighting for 3 days and come back and see what's alive.
That's a very solid point.
He goes, and you know, I have some micro mousas in my tank now that they were in my old tank, and I was trying to sell off that live rock, and there was little chunks of micro mousas on a rock, and I had to throw them in the brute trash can.
Yeah.
And so I threw them in there, like, hey, they're probably gonna go, but I don't have anywhere to put them at this point. I'm just trying to sell this rock. A guy was coming to get it, then he never showed up. And so I put it in there. Well, like 8 weeks later, when I started grabbing some of that rock out to put into the new tank, there they were. The micro mousas were still alive. They were totally bleached out, but they were alive. Yeah. And now they're taking over a rock in my tank because I pulled that rock out, stuck it in the new tank, and they're doing fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm like, I guarantee if there was no flow in that garbage can for 8 weeks,
done.
It's just it's pure death in there. Nothing is going to be alive any longer.
Yeah, no, it's very true. And that's a very solid point to kind of drive that home.
So plan your flow.
Yeah.
Not only with a standard tank, with a Peninsula tank, plan your flow. It's going to
Yeah.
be very, very important.
Even on a normal tank, like I'm always a fan of putting all your power heads along the back wall shooting forward, like on a normal tank, because they don't have to go as far. And you could get away with adding more power heads but running them lower. Like, again, not the cheapest route, but you're going to have more overall volume. And, on a standard, 4x2 tank, you're only shooting 2 feet and it circles around. And then it hides all your power heads. You don't see any of them, which to me is always the best of both worlds. Like, personally, if I can accomplish what I need without having visible equipment, that's like a huge win because it just keeps that like pristine look. And to me,
Yeah,
it's like a living art in a way, like the reef tanks. I kind of see it.
Yeah, I think if you gave me two, if you gave most people 2 tanks and one of them didn't have visible power heads, and one did,
Yeah.
and everything, they're gonna take the one that doesn't have the visible power heads. The life is just there, it's just working, and everything's kind of hidden in the scene. That's the kind of is the earmark of a good. I always kind of talk about user interface stuff when you're talking with like apps and creating things. The hallmark of that is it just works. It's in the background. It's not, you're not constantly fighting it. So when it comes to visible equipment, I'd rather just not fight it and look at it if I can help it.
No, I agree. I'm always a huge fan of back wall. It's a great way to do it with even the B40s, like in this tank, they're on the back wall. I have another tank that you can't see beside me, but again, it has like a little mirror on the back wall and the magnets in the overflow, the little AIO, so you can't see it in there, but it's a good way to kind of hide it and blend it in. So blending in is always a good thing.
Yep.
So yes.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say you change. So lighting. Do you find lighting's much different on a Peninsula versus a standard tank? I think the mounting's different, but otherwise the lighting's same.
Yeah, for me, I got to hang my lighting, so it's kind of sky's the limit on what I could come up with. I designed a light rack using 80/20. I don't remember the exact size I went with, but I designed my own. I think it's called Zyltech is who I used.
Okay.
ZYLTECH, and I think their actual market is more for like creating stuff for 3D printers.
Okay.
Like stands and workbenches and work areas for 3D printing.
Yeah.
But they have really good price on 80/20. Their connections are a little weak, in my opinion, because they're really not, I don't think, being made to hold heavy weight. Yeah, like, but anyway, I kind of worked it around and wish I had some pictures, but I figured it out. I would say lighting, it just has to be uniform, like very, very uniform. If
that's pretty much every tank.
Yeah, that's every tank. You can kind of get away with it, I think, in the front to back, and I relate this back more to T5 days. What order you put the bulbs in had a lot. It actually mattered.
Fair point.
So when I was running the T5 Q&A thread on Reef Central, back in the day with Grim Reefer, I talked to him. Yeah, I don't know if you ever remember, if you ever saw him or were back there. He was fantastic.
I like the nickname.
Yep, the Grim Reefer. He and I ran that T5 Q&A thread for years. But I remember talking to him, hey, how do you decide what order to put your bulbs in? He was like, well, it's pretty easy. You don't want to put, at the time, the GE 6500K bulb, super yellow, freshwater bulb up front. Because then the whole tank takes on that look, because that's what you're looking into. And so for me, just that's why I say uniform. Whatever lighting you do on a Peninsula, remember you've got a couple ways you're looking through it. You don't want to see one strip, that's just a different color, because it's just not blending very well.
No, that's fair points. And that's something I overly consider. Okay, so on that note, question for you, because you changed your lighting last time we chatted to blades, right? And I think you alternated them.
Yep.
I mean, it's not quite the same as like bulb border, but I mean, it's correlates. It totally correlates.
It big time. So mine alternate. just if you're looking at the front of the tank, I'll just go, oh, it's easy. It just goes left to right. It goes
Yeah.
grow, glow, grow, glow, grow.
Yeah. So you got 5.
So I have 5 total, 3
Yeah.
grows, 2 glows. And yeah, I spread them out because you don't, I mean, you don't want to go like grow, grow, glow, glow, grow. You are going to see that strip where the 2 glows are sitting together is going to look a little different. And so in whatever way you do it, you've got to plan that. Like for example, if you're doing just a standard tank and maybe you wanted to add a blade glow or a reef bright or an Orphic, whatever one you choose. Yeah. Maybe you just want some blue LEDs and you can put it in front of your lights and just kind of angle it back. You're fine. You can't do that on a Peninsula. You can't just put 1 bar on the one side and have it shoot into the tank. I mean, you could, but you want both. So now you're adding 2 bars no matter what to make it look
matchy.
Yeah. Everything's got to match, or it's so very apparent. It's very apparent. And if you have any OCD at all, it'll bug you big time.
Yeah. I was laughing. Someone else was helping with their tank the other day. He sent me a photo of it and he had, 4 skies on it, but there was like this gap in the middle. I'm like, can't you show me those in so they're even? And then he's just like, the next day, he's like, yep, I ordered a 5th one to mount it where the overflow was. He's like, OCD couldn't take it. I started laughing. I was like, yep, sounds about right. I'd probably do the same.
Yep. So, yep, I did change the lighting to the blades. They've been fantastic.
Nice.
You can, like I said, you can see them in my build thread if you want. If anyone wants to see them, you can just see the video. Devin played it last time. It's on my YouTube. I think I have 1 subscriber. It's not a place where I'm trying to get it's so much easier to post it there and then put the link onto like Reef to Reef.
Yeah, for sure.
Then their video upload is not good on the Reef to Reef. And so just put on YouTube. It's out there. You can see it.
Okay. So lighting, obviously you want to match. Flow, probably the biggest consideration. Aquascape, again, that's obviously a big one because you need to plan where your high flow stuff is versus your low flow stuff. Any other big considerations you think on a Peninsula versus a standard issue tank?
I think, the way you're going to lay out your stand. You and I have been talking about this for weeks, that I'm going to be redoing the whole layout of my stand underneath. And a little backstory, when I started out the tank, I started with the Halides from Reef Bright. And on the back side of my tank, I wanted to put the sump. God, I really wish I had some pictures or something, but it's pretty easy. If you're looking at the front of my tank, on the very back side, so I split it up into 3 sections, 24 inches each. And what I really ended up doing was there's one 24-inch section, and that's my electronic cabinet.
Yeah.
On the back, and then the front 48 inches is where my sump is, which scared me big time because I'm putting plumbing right over all of my electronics. And this is why I'm changing everything, because a couple drops and potentially my house is on fire. Or you're frying the apex, you're frying my CJ controllers.
Either way, it sounds expensive.
Yeah, it's not a good thing. But back to when I had my halides, the very front light, the cord was not long enough to run all the way over, all the way down, and then to the far side, back to the front of my stand. And so nothing I can do. I have to move all the electronics to the back side, back there. And now they're gone. So plan that. If you have to have the electronics underneath, I don't like that to begin with. I don't have a choice with where my tank is at.
I mean, I'm okay with being in the stand. Most people can have them in the stand. On my first Peninsula tank, again, for whatever reason, I put my controller board on like the front stubby end of the Peninsula. But again, running those wires all that distance, all the way back under, a lot of the time, your wires are too short for that, especially if it's a 6-foot tank, because that's a lot of way to run.
Well, yeah, so to go from the front of the tank, I mean, you're almost 6 feet. You know,
Yeah.
you're 5.5 feet or whatever. Then for the lighting, I have to go up about 3 feet from there,
Mm-hmm.
and then I have to run it back 6. So
Yep.
you're talking, you're 15 feet.
Yeah, it's a lot of wire.
Not many lights, and so that was a consideration when I was switching lights. Do
So,
they have a long enough cord for that?
some will custom make cords or sell
Mm-hmm.
extensions, but it's not a standard thing. You got to do a little more digging to find those and
And I'm
acquire them.
sure if I planned it out a little better, I could have gone to Tulio over at ReefDudes and asked him to put a longer cord on one of his reflectors, and he'd have done it.
Yeah.
But again, this is all the stuff that you think you plan out, and you just miss little things here and there.
Yep.
And so for me, when it was like getting this tank set up, I missed such a crucial step early on that it just compounded. The rest of the way, all of my choices had to be different. And so now I'm going back and I'm like, no, I'm fixing all of this. I was in way too much of a rush to get, I just rushed it too much to get that old tank out, to get switched over. I mean, it'd already been sitting there. I had the tank, it was sitting in my house for almost a year before it got set up. It was just sitting in my basement on the floor, on the carpet down there. So anyway, just take the time. That's
pre-plan,
plan again. Even better if you can start mocking stuff up in real life. Go get some cardboard. Ryan and Randy used to go get PVC and build a fake tank and stand. And back then when they were talking about it, PVC was cheap and COVID hadn't happened, and it's a little more expensive now. But if you get it in the size you're going to use to plumb your tank anyway, you can just reuse it.
Yeah.
So,
no, very, very true.
But if you can't do something to get a scope of what it is you're actually working with.
This might be overkill, but what I did with some of my prior ones, I'd model it. There's a program called SketchUp, and they have a free version. And I would mock up the tank and the stand and the containers, and you can make little 3D models and just drag them around and see everything fits together and kind of plan it out. And that's another good way. If you are trying to, you have the time to kill before you're doing it, before you're into the custom, you can figure out how everything will fit together and play with different layouts. And it's a good way to go.
Yep. So let's see, another consideration for me, I wish I'd have done is if you're planning on a peninsula, I guess some of you guys out there can start the keyboard warriors. I won't run a rimless tank ever again.
Interesting.
It's way too easy to splash over the edge.
Truth.
You put a mesh lid up there anyway, usually to keep everything in. So I'm gonna have something there with a Euro brace. I can hide my screens really well.
Yeah.
I just like the Euro brace for strength, for a lot of reasons. But by using the external overflow, which you want the absolute ugly of my tank, I might get hate for it. Never, ever, ever, ever use Synergy Reef overflows.
Never have, but fair enough.
I don't.
What's your gripe? What's the dirt here?
I think we talked about it last time, but the back box is lower than the front box, and so the water falls in and makes noise. And
can't you put a taller standpipe into it to raise it up?
Yeah, you can do that, and that's what I was doing. I was running the back box as high as I possibly could, which you go, oh, that's all cool, until salt creep builds up all around the outside of the external overflow box. Well, salt creep actually becomes a wick, and so it will start wicking water up over the edge. And that's what happened to me, is water started wicking over the edge of my salt creep, down the external overflow box, onto my piping, and right over top of my EB832. I don't know how no water got in there. I think I caught it the day it happened.
Lucky.
And so you can't run it that high in the back box. I mean, because it's literally just barely there. You're not much away. And so I had to lower it down. There's a little more noise than I'd like, but I think I've kind of gotten it now to where I'm not getting the salt creep. I just don't even think I'd go external again.
Really?
I just don't. I don't think I'd do an external overflow box ever again.
That's fair.
All that piping and plumbing that's out over the back.
I mean, mine's
My
mine's external, but if it was to leak, the sump is kind of there because I offset a little bit so that the plumbing just goes straight down to the sump, and then so my stand's a bit wider, so the overflow is still in there. This tank I haven't even bothered doing it, but I usually will make like a U shape out of like black acrylic to like hide that part, and then my plumbing is just straight down to the sump. But I do see your logic on that one.
So that for me, and that's why I'm going to move the electronic cabinet to the far side, to the front of the tank.
Yep.
I'm going to move the sump back as far back as it will go. So all the plumbing and anything that were to necessarily leak is not going to be over any electronics. It might leak a little bit into the sump. I'm not quite sure. I've tried to figure out, like, my dosing containers have to stay back where they are. The worst part would be it's gonna leak on my carpet a little bit back there. Yeah. I wish I didn't have carpet, but you win some battles, you lose some battles.
You could use like a controller cabinet or something to encase your electronics within that section if it was to stay there.
Yeah, I'm just going to move them. I want them out on the front anyway. It's way easier to work on. I'm going to have, more open sides to get into. So when planning a peninsula, definitely account for cord length on everything you do.
Yep.
To make where you can place things in your stand, where you can put stuff a lot easier. So I think stand layout is a little bit, in a more standard tank, the sump is usually just right below wherever the overflow is.
Exactly.
It's pretty simple. Yeah, and cord length isn't much of a matter because you're only running to the back, which at most is 2 or 3 feet, and then up. Yeah. You don't need 15-foot cords.
So, given this experience, how do you feel about leak sensors within your stand and around your electronics different areas now?
I've had one since I went to the Apex, the Pro, the A3 Pro. I've got a leak sensor. I'm going to put another one on the back side of the tank, like down where the carpet is, to check that. Basically, where my leak sensor is now is the most common place. If I was going to have a leak, outside of like a seam bursting, I mean, you can't do anything with that anyway. But if it's going to leak, I've got the leak sensor right there right now.
Yep.
So at least I'd get a notification. I'm still 30 minutes if I've got to run from work to get there, so who knows what happens.
That's fair.
Then, but
at least if there was something little, you can at least fix it. Well, good to know about the overflow.
I just plan that because, and what I was getting to there is on the back side of my tank, there's no Euro brace because the external overflow had to go there. And so therefore, now my water is within like a ½ inch of the top of that glass back there. And that's what I was avoiding all along with the Euro brace, was water being that close over the edge. Now, thankfully, I don't know how your peninsula is, but my fish only hang out at the one end, the far end, where they're getting fed. Yeah. They all hang out. That's because that's where they get fed every day.
Fair.
I shouldn't say all of them. I've got a cardinal. I have 2 cardinals. I think they're both male. They weren't supposed to be, but I think they both are. And so one hangs out on one island, one hangs out on the other island of rock. And they fight here and there. But for the most part, my big fish, especially those that are going to splash or do any serious damage, they're always out of the front. My foxface, my rabbitfish.
Mine's probably similar. Like they use, I'm going to say the far 2/3 of the tank more than that. But there's also a lot more space there. It might be why.
Yeah.
But I also do feed that end too, right? So there's some correlations.
So I don't really worry about them splashing on that back because, well, the overflow box takes up so much of the space anyway. They're usually not hanging out back in those corners.
Yeah.
But just something to consider. If you go to Euro brace, and this goes for any tank, if you go to Euro brace for the reasons I did, figure out a way to make sure the Euro brace is all the way around.
Yeah. I was always anti-Euro brace because I love the rimless look. And I think on a smaller, shallow tank, I would stick to rimless. But on like, a 2-foot or taller tank, I think I would probably do Euro brace if I did a custom one in the future. Because there is some advantages for sure. And splashing's one of them. Now that being said, the top lids that I have on there kind of acts like a Europlace because it has that polycarbonate brim around it, and it definitely stops the splashes. And I don't know why, but I have fish that will randomly splash the side and then drip down the side of the glass. So I mean, Eurobrace does prevent that, and thankfully the top that I have in a roundabout way kind of acts to prevent that as well. Or algae scraper, if that top 4 inches of your glass, you go too fast, it'll create a wave and then water on the glass again.
It used to happen on my 50-gallon that was a rimless. Yeah. No matter how careful I was, I had to have a towel with me the whole time when I was cleaning that glass because there was something splashing over the top.
Yep.
One little, like you said, you just have one little too quick, and all of a sudden a wave right over the edge, and you're like, whoops. And so you immediately grab them for a towel. So I like having the Eurobrace for that. Like I said, I was really big when I was talking to Joe at Glass Cages about I want the tank even overbuilt. I don't need steam issues going on or anything failing. So they do a lot of damage.
How do you feel about canopies?
I had one on my 120 and I hated it. Fair. I mean, I know that's strong, but I could only work on one side of it. Like you couldn't get into this on the sides because it came with the tank when I bought it, and it had the door. It had the huge piano hinge, and it lifted up on itself on the top. So I could work on the whole front of the tank, but I couldn't get to the sides ever because the canopy was always in the way.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a 120, so it was 24 inches tall. And there was just no way to get down into the corners without going to get a step stool. And, it was just really tough. So I didn't like it. I did really enjoy the light did not spill in your eyes the entire time you're looking at the tank.
That is a nice feature.
That's very nice. Yeah. It could hide. You could just put your lighting up in there. It didn't really have to be super pretty because it's hidden all the time.
True.
So I liked that for that. I'm planning on making a floating canopy over my tank now.
Yeah. I think that's the road I would go. So it's kind of like a blend of the two.
Yeah. So I want to get so the light glare won't be as bad, the light spill. I actually, if I can make it work, I'm going to put all my power supplies up there.
Oh, nice. That's a good spot.
I'm going to put all the power supplies up there. I'm going to put a surge protector, an outlet, 8-outlet thing or whatever up there. Yep. And then I'm just going to have one cord. So in essence, I'm kind of making my own fixture of up there where one cord will come out and it'll just run down probably into the wall. I don't need my lights on. I don't need my lights on my Apex.
No, I like it. It kind of makes sense for power supplies too, because they heat, right? And they'll be basically vented upwards. So that kind of makes sense. Like I had a lot of mine underneath the tank, which is probably not the best for venting, but I don't have side panels on my stand, so it's fine. But it would be a good spot to put them up there if you can.
Yeah, all of mine are just down in my stand. Yeah. So that's the hope. I actually am changing lights again on my tank. And so we'll kind of see how that all rolls and goes out. Nothing wrong with the blades. They've been absolutely fantastic.
What are you changing to? What are you up to?
Oh, I am switching to Radions.
Okay.
Yep. Gonna be 6 XR15s, and then I'll run a blade down the middle.
Okay.
Glow down the middle. So I'm gonna switch out to that. Nothing wrong with the blades. I always want to try new stuff. I love new equipment.
So on mine, I have the 4 XR15s and a blade on either side, but your tank's also much, much wider.
Yeah. So for mine, I could have gone 30s. I could have gone 15s. It was just kind of each set of XR15s needs to cover roughly 36 by 24. And 130, I think is kind of pushing that. I mean, I know they say you can. I know people are.
I would always do 215s over 130 in most cases because you can spread out the light more, right? And make it more even. Yep. The only downfall is you have more plugs to deal with and more power plugs.
when I was trying to figure it all out, it was like 330s is just 3 power supplies, 3 plugs.
Yeah.
I'm done. But I could have run 2 blades. I could run a blade on each side. So this way now I'm gonna have 6 plugs plus the blade. But I think it's just gonna be a better fit.
Fair.
And I want to try out the G6 Radeon, so
I recommend.
I change my equipment way too much. I'm always messing around with stuff, but I think maybe you can agree or disagree, but with us being moderators in the BRS group, and you've got your own group and you've got obviously your channel.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like at times there's a lot of equipment out there, and I personally like to have some hands-on experience if I'm going to be recommending it, if I'm going to be talking about it, if I'm going to be recommending against it. I want to make sure that I've actually had experience running it if I'm going to say, hey, here's the positives, here's the negatives, and I'm not just spewing what I read on the forum. I'm not just sharing what someone else said. I actually ran it. Here was my experience with it. And so I like to just mess around with equipment. I
100% agree with you, and I mess with my tank far too much because I like to try everything because I can't really talk about it if I haven't done it, at least not, in a proper manner. So I personally mess with my tank way too much. It's like, do I need to go from algae scrubber to refugium to Chaeto reactor? No, but I do it because I need to learn to share and, my experience.
And there's, until you've run something, I don't really put much stock in first impression videos and the marketing hype that comes out around an item, right off the bat. Because if you can't create a piece of equipment that works well for 6 months in this industry in 2023, just leave the game now. And so I like to test it, and I want 6 months. I want a year. I want to see if something's going to break. I want to see how many things break at 13 months on your 12-month warranty. And that's a whole other topic. We could probably have a long.
Could be a fun one, actually. That could be a fun one
of that stuff. But anyway, so I just want to change up my lighting for that reason. I just want to play with stuff.
NSB Reefer, blues or pros? What are you going for?
Pros.
Good man.
Here's what I'll say.
Okay.
I ran G5 blues, and I myself can't stand them. Now, remember, I'm still a huge Halide fan. I love Halide looks. The Phoenix 14K bulb, even the Radium 20K when it was ran, and it's true, it was a little more white. I love the Halide. I don't want like 6500K Iwasaki's again. I don't ever need to go back to that. But I do not, love, I call them the Instagram tanks.
Yeah.
Just spend $5,000 on some torches, throw some blue and violet LEDs over it, pump them up, and then, hey, everyone look at me, give me likes.
Yeah.
That doesn't show me any skill set whatsoever in this hobby.
Speaking of likes, if you enjoy the conversation, hit that like button. I agree. I do appreciate like the black light party glow, but I also really appreciate the nice crispy white naturalist look where you still get the vibrance. Like I really do that. So I tend to go for the pros because you can still get both looks. And if you're into acros, I feel that a lot of the white channels give you better growth and color overall, in acros at least. Not just for the glow, but just like the overall health. Because that extra fuller spectrum and that extra bit of punch you get out of the whites, because the whites is like, you get a little more oomph out of it. So I feel personally that you get a little more something out of the pros. That's why I like them.
Yeah, and I'm also, like I said, I'm leaving a blade in there. I'm leaving the blade glow. I really wish they'd have picked different names.
I mixed them up.
But the glow is heavy on the royal blue, but then it's got, and it's got 2 violets in there. They call them like UV, but I want to say one's 420, 415, the other one's 405. So by going with the blues, I already, there's a lot of those in there. If I went with like the G6 blues, So I was running the G5 blues. I didn't love them. I've heard the G6 blues look much better in person.
Yeah.
But I'm always going to come back to, I like reflective colors in my corals, probably more than fluorescent colors. And that's what, with the white, that's what you're saying. You get the reflective colors. You get the true color of what's there. Your fish look way better. Nothing wrong with the blues. And like I said, I've heard the G6 blue now on 100%. Looks incredible. But I already knew I liked the pros. I've run Radion G1, G2, G3, G4, G5. G4 was the pro. Before then, I think they were all just basically the same. They were just G1, G2, G3. And then I ran the G5 blue, then the G5 Pro, because the G5 Pro looked like the G4 Pro.
Yeah.
You know, the G5 blue looked nothing like the G4 Pro when you ran them on AV Plus.
In my opinion, G3 is where they started becoming like really good lights. Like the 1 and 2, like I don't know, like it was still like the early days. The G3, I feel like they started to do it, and then the G4s, I feel like when they really started to get like the even non-hot spotty, that's when they started to shine. I think the G3 was the first, like, okay, solid light, and then 4, okay, that's more even, not hot spotty, and then they've just gotten more and more even ever since then. But
yeah, and so the G6 going with the Pro, like, yeah, I just want to get, there's a little more white in it. Those warm white LEDs. I don't think PAR is going to be any type of an issue with 6 of them. Really, my big concern right now is the light spill.
That's fair.
Am I going to get? But that's why I want to make a floating canopy, and I'm going to kind of try to recess them a little bit, just to get some, because I have a couch with.
Did you see what I did with mine? Okay, so I also have a couch and a projector. So I did 2 things. One, I lowered my lights about an inch and a half closer to the tank than they were before. And I also 3D printed, like I designed a little light shade that clips on, like super low profile, looks good, not too thick and chunky, like just right, after like 10 different versions. But it did massive difference for cutting out the light spill for me. Yeah.
And that's where I'm hoping, we kind of see these companies kind of just take a little more thought and consideration into, spread's great until half the light's exiting the tank because it's shooting directly sideways into my eyes. Like,
but putting your lights closer to the water, again, gets rid of a lot of the spill too. So there's a lot of things you can play with.
So anyway, build that floating canopy.
Nice. That'd be cool.
Get that up over over it. Try and clean it up. And obviously, once I build this, it will be the lighting I stick with for a very long time.
Yep.
I'll start messing around with other equipment.
Yeah, I know it. NSB Reefs, not sure I'll upgrade the G6, pretty up to the 5s. You have the 5s, keep the 5s. Unless you want to go from like a blue to a pro, don't bother changing, because the 5s are awesome lights. Like the 6s are a little bit better, but it's not night and day different. Like the 5s are still super awesome lights, so you're already good to go. Any thoughts on ATI Straton Pros? I've never used them. Aesthetically speaking, they're very thin, like a light. Like I love the look of them, but I've never seen them in person. But like they look cool. Like visually, I think they're very aesthetically pleasing.
And I don't know if the Straton Pro, is it the exact same body as the Straton? Because the Straton's gone.
Yeah, so this guy, Straton. Yeah, I think it's the same thing.
That's the Straton. They're gone.
Oh,
They've been discontinued. I don't know if they changed the look with the Pro. Look up Straton Pro. They were not going to bring the Straton Pro to America originally. I've heard, I think a couple of them are now.
Yeah.
A couple of the sizes are coming.
Not cheap,
to America.
But it looks similar. 2,400 something.
I love ATI stuff galore. When I was doing all my T5 stuff, I was in touch, and I got to talk to Oliver a lot back when T5s and ATI was the big name. and they're very, very good over there. He knows
Yeah.
his stuff inside and out. So it didn't surprise me when his LED acts just like a T5. It's just a pure blanket.
Well, it is a blanket. I mean, look at that thing. This is a Reef Build article, but yeah, aesthetically, I think they're cool looking lights. But I've never seen one in person, so I can't like fully say. But they look cool.
Yeah, and I've heard like I said, I've heard the pros are coming to America now. They weren't going to.
Wonder why?
Because ATI couldn't keep up with the exports just in Europe. Germany and Europe alone, they couldn't keep up. If you can hang them, if you can figure out a way to mount them, that was their very big con.
Yeah.
Was hanging them, that cord, the way it goes out the back of the light, wanted to pull on the light down, so you had to try and even that out. And then they came out with this really, really good looking, like, think of the RMS for Radion, but it was for them.
Oh, nice.
But it had these little lips that came down underneath, grabbed the light fixture, held it totally level. You can look it up. If you can find the Stratton hanging arm or whatever they were calling that, but they never got outside of Europe last I saw.
Phil, Reef Keeper says he has them. Love my Strattons. There you go.
Yeah.
I'm looking up.
I thought heavily on the Strattons, but like I said, you might be able to find a few just laying around somewhere here, but they're gone.
Well, there you go.
Kind of wait until the pros come in.
You got the pricey pros coming. They look cool though. So there you go. Never used it, but I like it. Phil likes his. So we got to work with.
And yeah, they would have gotten a lot better reception, I think, here in the States had they been easier to mount, if they had better mounting options.
Oh, okay.
And they actually could have gotten them here.
Okay, one arm reefer. I had to play with the Strattons. Very much like the Philips Coral Care for colorish, to be honest. But, I mean, the Philips Coral Care, like, they have a nice, like, their light output and stuff is very even. That part's nice. But I appreciate there's no fan, but they're heavy. They're a bugger to mount. Where the Stratton's like the sexier version of it.
Yeah, I had a Coral Care. I ran over my 50-gallon for months. I had the Coral Care Gen 2. And it's like you said, it was a great light. But they are way too heavy. I mean,
they're a bugger to mount nicely.
I think mine was 26 pounds or something like that.
Yep.
If I remember right. So fantastic light. I mean,
here's like
a lot of what we're doing now is based off of them, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, that's the tricky bit. Like, I really like the fact that there's no fan and it's silent. But now at the same time, I can have a blade that has no fan and is super thin and sleek. So I'm like, okay, it's a good solution versus something that weighs like 30 pounds. But, you know, so there's all the considerations. Like, mounting is a bugger, so it's definitely a thing.
Yeah, I am excited and I know nothing. I really don't.
Yeah.
Whenever version 2 of the blade comes out, just so they can fix some things with them. I'm hoping they can get one blade to rule them all, right? That has the full. I shouldn't have to buy a second blade just to get the violet LEDs. They got to figure out how to put all of them in one. Put the white LED on the correct side where it's supposed to be in the middle. Don't stick it on the end so the one side of my tank is white.
Interesting. See, I haven't noticed that. But I wonder
it's there. It's definitely there. I'm very lucky because I'm gonna be saying this as I'm gonna try and sell mine. But you can watch my video. I got lucky. I went through like 7 of them to get my very first one that even worked. And not all of it was their fault. One was FedEx bent it right in half. I mean, that was pretty cool when it came in.
Did it work when it was bent?
So it turned on actually. Oh,
really?
Yeah, no,
that's impressive actually.
I can't even show you because I'm on my phone. I have pictures, and when he brought it in, the FedEx driver dropped it off. I said, "Oh, thanks, that looks good." And he just grunted at me and threw it down. And the box was just smashed and turned off to the side.
Oh, jeez.
And so for me, my brother's holding the one side of the box, and I'm pulling on the blade as hard as I can to get it because it's all just I mean, it just been crunched up in
Mangled.
there. It turned on though. It turned on just fine. I got to see the full
Huh.
insides of a blade.
I'm
See
surprised.
how they were, how they were doing all their stuff. It was pretty
Crazy.
cool. I don't, it was a good learning experience. But anyway, I would like to see them. I mean, if you could just put, because so I have 5 over my tank, and I only need 3 really to meet the par levels for full mixed. I could almost go most of the SPS with just 3.
So did you do 5 just because you could, or did you 5 because
both? Yeah. Yes.
That's fair.
A, because I could.
Overkill things.
And B, my plan has been mostly just to have this tank turn into a full SPS, top to bottom tank. It's always, SPS has always been my, my bread and butter, or actually my favorite.
Yeah.
And so I do want 200 plus par down on the sand bed in every corner. I want little shadows because I want the growth to look more natural, of which the flow in my tank is basically determining that growth is going to look funny anyway. But so I just did the 5. Plus, I could do it, but again, this is why I want them to come out with one that has more spectrum in it.
Fair.
Is because it only had my violet, the glow down the middle, and then the grows were on the outside. And so for me, I was like, I want to get more full spectrum over more full area.
So you
like I got to get to 5.
Glow light.
I just want them to
blend the 2 together more.
Yeah, I want the 2 to merge into one. I want them to kind of work on the light channel and what they're doing there. I think that needs a little bit of work. And then, you could literally just grab, how many do I need? How wide's your tank? 24 inches. Grab 2.
Yeah.
You're done. They're super thin. They're super easy. My AI has been awesome the whole time I've been using it. So I think their version 2 of those could be killer if they put the time and effort into it.
What do you prefer, my AI or Mobius for the lights? Because I have all mine in Mobius. I don't have any in my AI. I haven't used my AI in a while, so I was curious.
I haven't ever used them on Mobius. I have my Vortex and my Versa. Obviously over Mobius. I've never set the lights up. I just did it in my AI.
Okay.
And I was talking to somebody on the forum once, and they were complaining about setting up the lights or something. And I was like, that doesn't sound anything like something's not right.
Yeah.
And I didn't know they were using Mobius.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, just go in, hit easy setup. You pick your sunrise, you pick your sunset, what levels you want to get it up to, and it just does it all for you.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, not in Mobius or something.
It does now, but the earlier days, it's definitely had a lot of tweaks over the last year or so.
And so I was like, oh, so the setup's not even the same. Same company, but we can't even make it set up.
I would say it is now. It is now.
Okay.
Because I did beta testing Mobius, and it's definitely gotten much more smooth. There was certainly some bugs in the early days, but now I'd say it's pretty comparable on either app.
Yeah, I may try to set up the blades in Mobius before I, get rid of them, sell them off. I'll set the one blade up in Mobius anyway with the Radions. But I've loved. It's been great. My AI, I haven't had a single problem.
Nice. No, it works well. I tend to use Mobius just so I have everything in one app. But
the one thing I wish that it does, and I mean I get it, but for example, I have an AI. I have the Blade Freshwater that I was using over my sump to grow Kato.
Yep.
And the problem is, if you add that to your tank, it then puts that in with all the other blades. And so all of a sudden I had red and white, that I don't have. And so when I was messing with my big lights up above, all of a sudden I'm watching my Fuge light sit and change and do all this. And I was going,
really?
Wait a second. So I had to create a second tank that I just called Fuge, which I get it. It is a different setup. It's a different light. It's a different area. I want it to act differently. I want different times on it. So it makes sense. But in my mind, I thought it might separate the 2 out, or I could tell it, hey, these 5 are together. This one is not, but it's on the same tank. So anyway, yeah. So I have to have in my AI, I have my main display, and then I have Fuge.
Oh, okay, that's why. I'm gonna be like, I don't remember this problem, but again, I was using Mobius, not my AI, so that's probably why. Okay.
Maybe I haven't set anything up in Mobius to know if you can separate that. But do you have blades in 2 different areas that are different spectrums, and you're trying to?
Well, I can't say now because I moved a bunch of stuff to MXM and different things, so it's a big mix now. But yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yep.
Yeah, I think if AI, which I don't even know if I didn't even plan this today, but I did wear their shirt. I don't even know if you can see it on the
Fancy
stream. It's, they've been great. I look forward to Blade version 2 whenever that comes out, because I think it'd be so cool. And we're going to be way off topic here, but I think it'd be so cool to do a Radeon, like a thinner, long Radeon with their optics, with their LED mix, and just have like a 48-inch long, Radeon. So then you could do Radeon bars.
I mean, it's kind of a Radeon
or something.
Bar. I mean, it's kind of a Radeon bar. Yeah, I don't know.
It's almost there. Call it the Bladeon,
The Bladeon Pro.
Yeah, if we see that come out, Aperture, you guys owe me a bunch if anybody over there is watching this. But no, I've been thrilled with them, and I really, really recommend the Glow. No product placement. I'm not sponsored. I've said it before in the salt test. Nobody's given me anything in this. I'm not Devin.
What? Sorry, I keep muting because my dog's going bananas in the background.
Oh no, you're good. No, I'm just saying, but the Glow is I love the Glow. The violet, you get different colors that pop, that blue and royal blue LEDs.
So I have the Glows on the tank beside me, and I have a Grow on the Nano beside me, which is still top secret, but one day I'll share it. But yeah, I totally get to play with cool toys, which is fun. I'm not going to lie. I love testing new products.
Yeah, no. So those are things, things I'd like to see improved with those. Are there any other questions?
Northeastern Adventures. If there's no SPS in the tank, aren't Radones overkill? This is subjective. They give you a lot more headroom, but I mean, you could just run them at very low. So overkill, yeah, probably. But the way I look at it is, if you have that headroom, if you ever do change or you upgrade your tank later, then the light can kind of grow with you. But yes, for a softy tank, a Radeon is probably overkill. Something like an EM Prime is probably better suited, or a Blade, or, But then again, you have more LED colors so there's 2 different, at least for the pros. There's more color channels than a lot of the other cheaper lights. And the colors that you're blasting out are the ones that are reflected back at you. So you get better color rendition having more of a fuller spectrum light. That's one reason that I do like the pros. So overkill, depends how you look at it, possibly. Yeah.
When it comes to me with lighting, I may not be the best. I want to say, and if you're watching, Greg, I apologize. I believe it was Greg Carroll. I was reading comments one day, and I saw him say, not all of us are in a race to the bottom.
Yeah.
And I busted up. And so I'm really not good to ask on some of this stuff, because to me, when I pick a light, like, it's illuminating my tank.
Mm-hmm.
How it looks, right? Well, that's why we have these things. I mean, the majority of us are keeping these for how they look and for the challenge and whatever. But I've got to like the way the light looks, first of all.
Yeah.
And second, I need it to provide the best biology, the best energy for the animals we're keeping.
Yeah.
And you get into how you going to mount it.
Mm-hmm.
If you come to me and say, really, the only way I can mount this, the canopy that this tank came with, it's going to put the light 18 inches off.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just, without me getting crazy. Well, I'm never going to tell you to go get a Radeon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what a waste to get a Radeon 18 inches off. Go grab an AI Prime or an Orphic or something. Like, there you go. And so for it to be overkill, I don't really see that because I want the widespread.
Yeah.
I want the best spectrum. I want the best for my animals.
Well, you brought up a good point. Mounting makes a big difference, right? Like a lot of, you go buy a China light, they don't have a good mounting solution, and you got to make up your own versus something that has, a preset thing at the right height. And that is a very good consideration.
So that's the first question I ask every time in the group. If anyone's ever seen in the VRS group and someone says Radeon G6 or AI64, whatever, right?
Yeah.
I always ask them, how are you mounting these? Because even AI's mounts aren't tall enough. I mean, Ryan in his last lighting series, a year ago, 9 months ago, whatever it was, they proved all the mounting heights for everything, like where they needed to be to get the best blend, to get rid of some of the hot spots. And those are things to consider.
Yeah.
And so even AI's mount isn't high enough. AIs need to be 14 inches off the water. But if that's what you need, like if you were a farm and you were in your tank a ton, in my opinion,
you want your lights high.
Yeah, I don't want those things in my way. I don't bump my head. I don't want them in and out of my arms. I don't want to be bumping them with water all over me. So maybe I want them up higher. And I don't want to run 3 times as many and then mount them 2 feet high. So those are the things to consider. So
many considerations.
So Overkill to me is always, how are you going to mount them? What are you looking at? And if your whole priority is, I want to grow coral, well, we've already proven, you can go grab a black box off Amazon if you really want. I mean, that'll grow it'll grow coral. I'm not even going to argue that ever.
Yeah.
But for me, they look like a disco ball. They look absolutely terrible when I see them over the tank. I can see all this color separations and my eyes go nuts. I see that with some of the top end stuff too that use lensed LEDs. If LEDs use optics like that, they're out for me. They're done. So
there's a lot of considerations.
Kind of a long answer to a short question, but
it depends. I
don't. We were throwing 250 watt halides over softies. I mean, that you want to talk about getting into overkill? You got the guy with the 400 watt radium.
40 gallon.
Over his 40 gallon softy tank, and he had a 400 watt halide over it. That was funny. When it was fun.
That's funny.
That was fun times. So.
But so true. Okay, so back to peninsulas. We're slacking.
Yep.
If you were, since you're changing your tank, if you were to do a new peninsula, is there any big things you change? 1, would you do a closed loop or would you not? And 2, is there any other things that come to mind that you would do differently if you were to do it again? Since I know you're doing yours and you've already thought about it's perfect.
I would. So things that I do different from the very get-go, because some of these things I cannot do without actually changing the tank, and I'm not. If that tank's coming out of my basement, not that tank's not behind me, but anyway, if the tank's coming out of my basement, it's because I'm done. It took 8 of us to get it down there. We put holes in the wall. It was a ton of fun,
Wait, you put holes in the walls to get your tank down there?
Oh yeah. I've got pictures. I was
the things we do for our hobbies.
I was within half of an inch of not being able to get that tank down the stairs, and that's. I thought we could. It's a long story. I had to turn on its side because it's 36 inches wide. It's too wide for the doorways, but it's only 22 inches tall. So we turned it on the side and we brought it down the stairs, and we got to the very bottom of the stairs on my basement. There's a landing. Well, from the last stair to the wall is only 35 and a half inches, and my tank's 36. And let me tell you, you can't just take that and just shove it down in between there because you'll just break the glass. It'll pop. So we had to rest the tank on the very bottom stair, put a guy over in the corner, and then the classic Friends scene, guys yelling pivot. I don't know if you're a Friends fan, anyone out there will know the pivot scene. And so we're trying to keep a lot of the weight off of the corner of the tank and twist it around the corner because I could not put it where I just thought, I'll just bring it down here. I'll put it on the landing. We'll slide it off. We're done. Excuse me. And so we had to, on there, we had to hold all the weight. Only 3 of us could fit there at that point where we were at. And so, the top corner up in my wall. It's in my build thread over on Reef to Reef.
You have to go scroll back through it.
The build thread's called It's a Lifestyle,
Yeah.
which is a funny backstory. I think I've even got it in here. And anyway, that top corner of that glass just dug a nice channel right through my drywall as it was turning. And I was like, whatever. I can patch that, sand it up, patch it, repaint. It's fixed.
Drywall patching isn't bad.
Yeah. So, and our house has been under renovation for like the last 3 years anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, whatever, I'll just go grab the bucket. So the guys were like,
fair.
Helping me. They were very, oh, no. I'm like, just do it. Just destroy the wall. I'll fix it. The tank, we can't do anything now. Like,
sacrifices must be made.
And it barely got down there. So anyway, back to it. I would go to an internal overflow. I'm pretty sure I don't want to deal with the external unless there's a far better one out there.
Fair.
So I'd stick with an internal overflow. I don't know if I could do a closed loop with the stand with all the equipment underneath. There's just not enough room. Like where all that piping would go would be in my way even more than it already is. So I'd want to close the loop. What I'd change on my tank is I'd put on a different wall. I'd run plumbing through the wall and had a dedicated fish room. But then I lose a bedroom in my house, and then that's a battle, right? Do I want to take a bedroom away from the whole house here for a fish room? I kind of do. I think it'd be really cool. I would.
Okay, question. Someone's asking, what overflow is it? Was it Reef Synergy or something else?
Synergy Reef.
Okay, Synergy
Yep,
Reef.
the V2. Supposedly the version 3 fixed some of the noise, and I reached out to them and they wanted me to pay money to fix, and I just said I'm not. I felt that's unfair. This is your problem. Like, I trusted your equipment to do what it said it would do, and even with all the back and forth, we can't get it quiet, and then it's, here, spend money with us, and we can make it quieter with our version 3.
All right.
And
Phil said modular marine external overflow is the way to go.
Yeah, so I would, if
Phil's
I went external again, Phil does.
Yeah.
I would change up that. I'm going to put this out there cautiously I reserve the right to take it back. I wouldn't put any sand in the tank.
Interesting. Fair.
I can't keep it, though. Half my tank doesn't have sand.
Oh.
Half has sand and half doesn't. And I moved it all back. I moved my vortex up high. I moved all the sand back. And within a week, it was all pulled back to the other side. And so, and it's special grade.
Really?
Yep. I can't get it. But I have my vortex run at like 75, 80%.
Okay. I got bare spots, and I very slowly worked it up over like a couple months to get mine up there. And I don't know why, but that seemed to be like the magic of not getting bare spots. But it was a very slow process.
So what could happen, though, with me changing is if I got all my LPS, my hammers, and all the Ophilia and Fimbrophilia out on the far end of my tank, I could probably dial the flow down just a little bit. But right now, I've got to get a lot of flow to the far end because I've got a bunch of SPS down there.
Yeah.
And since I'm such an SPS fan and I kind of want to just have only SPS in my tank anyway, I just wouldn't do sand. And I don't have to worry about it. Okay. I could then also put some vortex down low and get real good flow everywhere.
I got to throw this out. This is a good idea. Two Little Fishies Reborn is the best substrate. If you got the small media, that would probably be pretty solid for not blowing around. That is not a bad idea. I am a sucker for sand. I love the idea of high flow and no sand, but I'm a sucker for sand. I love the looks of it.
I'm with you. I love the look of sand. I do what I can to keep it white and clean. Yep. My Diamond Watchman Goby is always going through it. She's been fantastic.
Yep.
So I might not do sand just because then I can crank the flow. Yep. I can just absolutely crank the flow. I'd completely redo my rock work. I would build it all the way. I would not use real reef rock again. Yep. That I don't have anything negative to say on it. I think you and I and Adam Monty over at BRS, we were talking about this. That in my tank, I have legit Fiji rock and legit Tonga. That's I don't even know how old now. In there, and it's covered in coralline algae. I mean, just covered. All of my real reef rock that I put in has nothing. Like it grows hair algae. It grows hair algae like a champ.
That's funny.
It will not grow coralline algae. I don't know what's going on. Every other rock in there is covered, and you get to any of the real reef rock pieces, and there's very, very little coralline going on. So there's something it's not liking there. I don't know what. So I wouldn't use real reef again.
I haven't used real reef. I've used art reef rocks. I've used Marco rocks. I've used Carib Sea, and I've used Aquaforest. I've never used real reef.
Yeah, I wouldn't use it. My real reef, and a plug just to bulk reef supply for handling it. My real reef, the first box came in completely dry and busted to 1 million pieces.
Yeah.
Like I ordered the large pieces because I'm putting in that tank.
And you got the rubble rock?
I just got rubble. Was
given the fact that you got a U-shape blade, your shipping guy is not very friendly. No. Whoever is your local place. Oof.
Yeah, no, and FedEx is, and really the rock was shipped by UPS. Rock doesn't ship well to begin with.
Yeah, that's true.
But it came in, like I said, bone dry, first of all, which it's not supposed to.
Yeah.
And so BRS they just sent me another box out, and the second box came in damp and wasn't all broken to pieces.
Yeah.
So major shout out there, but I just wouldn't use it again because I don't understand why it's not growing coralline algae when everything else in my tank is covering in it.
The one place you want it.
It doesn't sit there. Yeah, that's the only place I only want coralline on the rock. I don't want it on the glass. I hate it on my pumps.
That's fair.
Okay. So anyway,
quick question: how are you doing time wise? Are you still good, or do you gotta go?
Because
I know we're over. Okay. Before we get too crazy, I need to do a giveaway because I should have done it 2 weeks ago. So I apologize. So we're gonna do this because we got to do it. Yeah. So whoever entered this, I don't know if anyone enters on the stream, but I should have did this draw 2 weeks ago. So I apologize. But Mastertronic Essentials is some new fun coming out from Focustronic. And for this, as kind of a promo, we were giving away a Dosetronic DC. So there was a post in the Facebook group, as well as on my Facebook page for a bit. And everyone who entered, who followed the steps and entered properly, has been entered into a draw. And for that, I've got the good old Wheel of Death. So the winner is going to get a Dosetronic DC, which is a pretty sweet 5-head dosing pump. And if you have Alcatronic or Mastertronic, you can link it up and have it tweak your dosing based on the values, which is pretty cool. So that's what someone's going to win today. And because Focustronic is extra loving and it's shipping from Taiwan or Hong Kong or wherever it's made, doesn't matter where you're in the world. Some people complain that sometimes it's US only and stuff. Doesn't matter where you're in the world. So there is 30-something people that did all the rules and entered it properly, and there's people from Portugal, Canada, US, Germany, Vietnam, Australia, Germany, all over the place. So there you go, worldwide giveaway. Ryan, I see your mouth moving, but I didn't hear you. You're muted, buddy.
Oh, no, I didn't.
Okay.
Nope, I didn't see anything.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to run this one, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to speed up the spins a little bit because I'm going to do this like the death style. Spin time. Let's drop this down to about 5 seconds. And we are going to do elimination style. So last man standing. And just for fun, I'm going to probably do a second giveaway for the people in the chat for something else because why not? But we'll do that one afterwards. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to do this. Oh, sorry. I was watching the YouTube streaming page and I can see like the 30-second delay was messing with me. Okay, so if it lands in your name on this one, you did not win yet. It's who's ever left on the board is going to be the winner. So last man standing. Dun, dun, dun. All right. Riori. Sorry, buddy. So we're doing the super fast spin now. I know.
Can you imagine if you had missed what you just said?
Right? Oh,
and so you
Adam,
see your
sorry,
name
buddy.
pop up?
I know. Adam's actually a guest on my stream once in a while. Sorry, Adam. Da, 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 da.
He'll never be back.
He'll be back. Sorry, Alex. So Canadian. I like apologize here when I eliminate them. Dun dun dun. Oh, Sarah. Farewell, Sarah. Good effort. Dun dun dun. Manoj. Sorry, Manoj. Dun dun dun. Oh, Mike. Mike, I recognize your name. Sorry, Mike. I do appreciate when I recognize the names for people in the chat. It's more fun. Oh, Matthew. Sorry, Matthew. Dun dun dun. Oh, Beverly. Sorry, Beverly.
Has anyone been in the chat so far? Had their name removed?
I have no idea. We'll see if we see a no. Oh, sorry, Matt. Dun dun dun. Oh, Nigel. Sorry, Nigel. Jonathan. Farewell, Jonathan. Oh, sorry, Shannon. Oh, I recognize you. Sorry, buddy.
Oh, he's
Yep.
he's in the BRS group a lot.
Yeah, he is. And my Facebook group as well. Sorry, Dustin. I always feel bad when I recognize the names from like in the chats and stuff.
Well, they've got a gorgeous tank, if I remember.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Ali. Dun dun dun. Oh, Raphael. Sorry, Raphael. Schaefer. Oh, Luca. Dun dun dun. I wish I entered. You should have entered. It's only like 30 something that actually entered properly, so it's pretty good odds. Oh, sorry, Bobby.
Your odds are unbelievable, actually.
The laugh track. I know, it's really good odds. I don't know how to say your name. Fook? Sorry,
Oh.
Fook.
No, they want you to say it. They want you to shadow ban yourself on YouTube.
Probably. Sorry, TJ. Sorry, Mina. Dedicate Reefer. Hopefully, whatever Devin gives away, I get an opportunity. You should always enter my contest. Like, to be honest, like, they're pretty good odds. Like, you know, even like 1 in 50 is like pretty solid odds for winning, you know, a sweet 500 piece of reefing gear. Sorry, Jamie. I have pretty solid odds on this channel. Sorry, Billy. Okay, starting to get down to like a reasonable amount. Oh, Brandy. I like Brandy. Sorry, Brandy.
Oh, Brandy.
I know. Brandy joins half the time too. She's not in here today. She's lucky.
Our group chat's gonna blow up now with Brandy. Here it comes.
If she's watching it. Sorry, Johnny. Oh, dun dun dun. Oh, Corey. Sorry, Corey. Okay, we're getting down. This is like getting down to the final this time. Oh, sorry, Rick. Okay, do I know any of these people? I don't think so. Dun dun dun. Oh. Sorry, Fidel. Okay, we're getting down to the wire. It's getting serious now. Sorry, Rohan. I watched live. Yeah, sorry, Paul. Yeah, so the contest was probably about 3 weeks ago. I posted it to the Facebook group and my Facebook page for the ReefDudes page. Fernando. Sorry, Fernando. Okay. All right. Who's left? Andrew and Brian. I gotta sneeze. 50-50. So the name it draws is not the winner. It's the name that's left is who's going to win this one. Dun, 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 dun. So, Andrew. Congratulations, Andrew. Damn, no. Where's Andrew located? Looking from the spreadsheet of entries. Andrew. Dun, dun, dun. Andrew is in Australia. Very cool. Yeah, Australian winner. Oddly, it's kind of nice to have someone that's far away because everyone always complains that I don't necessarily have giveaways for the rest of the world. So, Andrew, congratulations, buddy. I will shoot you some messages in the post for entering. Now, Ryan, I feel like we should do a giveaway for the people in the chat right now.
All right.
And do you know what I haven't given away in like a month? An adaptive reef controller board.
Oh, right on.
Since we were talking about them today, it feels relevant of organizing wires and cables and all that jazz.
Yep.
So
I'm getting ready to pick one up.
Perfect. So what do you think? What should we do to make mentor? Should it be trivia? Should it be the good old number game that blows up the chat? What do you think? You get to pick. You're the guest today.
Is it something like pick numbers 1 through 1,000 and
No,
we'll
it
just
can't be
pick
that
one
high.
and whoever's closest?
There's like
Okay,
60 people in the chat, so we got to keep it semi-reasonable. Okay, this one is Canada, North America. I apologize to the rest of the world, but North America, you guys are good on this one. But Australia just won a prize, so we're still doing the worldwide love tonight. So, if you are number game, all right. So there's just shy of 60 people on the live right now. Okay, so let me do a Google random number. Random number. And random number generator. So between 1 and 60, this is going to be for the standard adaptive reef controller board. All right, first person to guess the right number is going to get hooked up in either the black or the white adaptive reef standard controller board. Dun dun dun. And go. Okay.
That'll get some chat going.
I know. That always blows up the chat. The hard part is like seeing who does it first and like paying very close attention. Now there's always a slight delay to the YouTube. So there you go. Number started. It's always that certain. Dun dun dun. Okay, I gotta pay close attention here. There's been some dun dun dun. Some close ones, but not quite yet. Dun 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 dun. I'm watching. I've seen the same number like 4 times now. It's funny. Oh, someone got it. John Allen, 34. John Allen, buddy, you got the magic number. Congratulations, dude. John Allen, number 30, or Josh Allen, sorry. Nicely done.
Oh, he's the quarterback for the Bills. He doesn't need anything. He's good.
Yeah, he's good. All right, Josh gets it.
He probably gets it all the time. I apologize.
That happens. All right, so it's going to be like 30 more seconds of spam until it catches up. Josh, congratulations. Woo. Okay, Josh, message me on either Facebook or Instagram or somewhere, pick your poison, and then send me your info, and we'll get you hooked up. So congratulations.
Right on.
Right on. Once the numbers tone down, any last minute reefing questions that anyone wants to dig into?
Any questions?
Yeah.
Then, hey, I'm going to throw something out.
Excellent.
Devin and I have talked about this in the background. I even mentioned to him anything about this. The possibility of you and I doing a podcast.
It'd be fun.
Maybe we do it. I don't know. People can put in the chat yes, no.
Maybe so.
See if there's some real interest. Keep them a little bit shorter than this, I think.
Yeah.
But just
slightly more reasonable.
Take questions. Maybe, a lot of ways we can go. But anyway, want to throw that out. See if there's any interest, especially if we could start doing. I like this stuff. I'd like to do giveaways. See what companies we could get on board, and start giving stuff away.
Yeah. That would be cool. Thumbs up.
Yeah, definite.
More real reefing talk is good. Agreed. I like keeping it real.
I think that we could keep it pretty real.
Yep.
I don't want to say it pretty real.
Straight up as it comes.
I'm gonna
AUA. Ask us anything. Yep. That's the AMA, right? Yeah.
Yeah, AUA, ask us anything.
AUA. Yeah. Too much is branded. Yeah, there's a lot of brandage out there. I mean, my channel's sponsored by BRS and Ecotech. But again, it's stuff I use for years ahead of time anyways, so they're both good to me. Their gear's good. Yeah, I wouldn't do it if I didn't support or previously use it. Like, it's ridiculous how much stuff people want to send me for stuff, and most time I'm like, I'm not gonna give you a video just because. Like, I'm gonna use it for a while, and if I like it, then I'll do a video. Otherwise, then no. Like, I'm not gonna promote anything if it's garbage. Like, that's terrible. Queen City Reefs. Sorry, the draw's over now. But yeah, I don't know. I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, years ago, like I said, I think we talked about this on one of the salt videos. Years ago, when I was testing lights, especially Q5 T5s, LEDs were just becoming popular. I mean, LEDs weren't around when I started, and so they started becoming popular, and I took a big interest in it, and I started testing lights for companies that I mean, they're not even around anymore. But anyway, and they would send stuff, and it was rough because I was like, well, thanks for sending it, but it sucks. Like,
yeah.
I don't know what you want me to say. And one of them straight up like would never send me a thing again because I wouldn't give them some glowing review on Reef Central back in the day.
Yeah.
And they'd never send me anything again. They're out of business.
Sounds like they deserved it.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, anything for me that I ever talk about, like I said earlier, I want to have had experience.
Yeah.
And
agreed.
I'm going to tell you exactly how my experience went.
Yeah, 100% the same as you.
Nobody is coming and telling me a thing. Like I said, I have one free item on my entire reefing arsenal. One free item. Yeah. And it was the Seche Ultra Zero pump.
Yeah.
Steve sent me one over there. Robert Farnsworth got him to hook me up with one. So there you go. There's my free pump. I bought the rest. Everything else has been paid for. And that's salt, fair. That's why, with the salt stuff we were doing, I just get to tell you how it is.
But
because
regardless if you bought it or sent it, I mean, you're ICPing it and you're just telling the data. Like, that's kind of irrelevant. Like, you should have got more salt from other people that weren't included. But yeah, but like the one caveat, like there's been stuff I played with and I didn't care for it. I'm not going to make a video being like, this sucks. I'm just like, I just forget about it. It didn't happen. It's gone. Like, I'm not going to trash them, but at the same time, I'm not going to like talk it up by any stretch. So I'm like, no.
No, it's one of those, you just keep it real. Say how it was. And any company that can't accept that, to me, isn't worth
100%
their stuff.
No,
because if they don't understand they've got flaws, you've got flaws. There's things that are wrong here. Now you can go back to the drawing board and fix it. That's why we beta test, right? That's true beta testing should catch a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. I do beta test a lot of stuff. I do find it fun. I like playing with new stuff. So that part for me is enjoyable.
Yeah.
Okay. Question in the chat. Dedicated Reefer. How do you recommend lowering phosphates? Easiest solution in my mind is good old fashioned GFO. Again, too much can be bad because you can overdo it. There is other stuff you can do, like lanthanum chloride based additives. To me, I have used them. I find them a little more sketchy because some fish, like wrasses and tangs, can be more sensitive to it. Because what it does is it binds the phosphates in the water to little teeny particles, and that can get in some fish's gills and irritate them. So I tend to avoid lanthanum. I tend to like GFO, even though it does cost a little bit more. Again, or you could do a big good old fashioned water change. But
this is where it would work so well on a podcast. I wouldn't even worry about it.
Fair enough.
I worry that much, absolutely zero, about my phosphate levels as long as they're elevated.
How high is too high for you? Don't care? Like 5?
Richard Ross runs his at like 0.9 or something.
Jeez, that's high.
With no issues. So I mean, don't let him get out of control. I mean, don't let him get up to like 2 parts per million, 2 or really past 1. Richard kind of he is experienced, he's got a different skill set than a lot of us. But I find worrying about phosphate usually causes way more problems than it ever solves. Especially because I just learned this the other day, actually, and I can't believe from Randy Holmes Farley.
Yeah.
A water change actually will lower nitrates and has a very good deal or chance will not lower phosphates.
Okay, I'm just throwing those out because this surprised me. I did a big water change last week or a week or two ago, and I used Photomarine salt, which I've never used before, but they gave me something to try, so I'm like, sweet. And on the bucket, it was like no phosphates or nitrates. I'm like, that's sweet. I had substantially lower nitrates and phosphates after a big water change with it, which actually surprised me. And I was like, hey, what is this? And there's some whatever additives and stuff in there, I guess, suppose. I don't know if it's for carbon dosing or what, but it actually had like a substantial drop. And I was like, huh, I didn't expect that, but that was kind of a nice bonus. Sorry.
So, yeah, but definitely if it had like a carbon source in there, 100%, it's going to start lowering those things.
Mm-hmm.
But what I learned from Randy was actually that a water change, people will talk about, I'm doing water change, phosphate's not going down, but nitrate is, right? And why? And he said it's because phosphate within an aquarium reaches an equilibrium. Your rock or aragonite, whatever, will absorb so much phosphate before it starts leaching it back out.
Yep.
And so it will reach equilibrium with the water. So when you take phosphate out with the water and put in new water, sometimes the rock will then just leach phosphate back out into the tank to get back to equilibrium.
Yes, that can definitely happen if you have super high amounts.
So for me, though, I actually think phosphate's far more important than the people ever gave it credit for. Because 10 years ago, what were we all being told?
Yeah.
0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, everything out. And now today, so I would ask, what's your phosphate at? Really? Does it even need to be lowered? Because I see a lot of issues from people trying to lower it.
Yeah. A couple weeks ago, I had Lou from Tropic Marine on. We had a really good chat about phosphates. Okay, so this to me, I'm still wrapping my mind around how it dropped my phosphates and stuff so much. But on the 25th, I was at 0.09, and I did like a 50-gallon water change, which is like 25%-ish. And then my test from the other day was at 0.027. So that, like, for me, that was a pretty damn good drop. Like, that was a nice, pleasant surprise / amaze that dropped it so much, like, which is crazy to me. But I don't know if that's normal. I feel like doing it again to see what happens and see if it's consistent. But
you also take into what's your margin of error range on that test.
This is a robot auto tester, so it's pretty tight. But I also vacuumed my sump and my sand bed in lots of places that had detritus that could have been contributing to it, right? You know, cleaning all the detritus out of your sump is, again, going to knock it back. You know, say vacuuming the sand bed, because all that stuff that's rotting or decomposing is going to up your nutrients. So cleaning all that probably was a chunk of it as well.
So that's just my opinion for anyone that wants to take it. Yeah, just get phosphate there.
Yep.
Make sure it's there. It's extremely important to have it.
Mm-hmm.
And unless it was like running away on you, like bad, just let the tank do its thing.
Yep. Because we could never get close to 0. Yeah, it was definitely more of a challenge back in the day. Now it seems a lot easier.
Yeah. But there were a lot of ultra low nutrient systems back then that looked fantastic. I always felt like, looking back, they were kind of right on the brink, though. Like, they were really great, or they were just that close to just going south on you real quick.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Josh, I set up a new 50-gallon tank 5 months ago. Last week, I changed my skimmer, and my PO4 had 0. NO3 is around 5. Now I'm having cyano outbreaks. Yeah, 0 is technically bad. If you're actually 0, you're messing with the balance. You want something in there. Generally just feeding your tank more, adding more fish or more fish poop. You know, you do something like ReefDudes that has phosphates in it. You know, that type of stuff will help just boost it up a little more naturally.
Yeah.
Beauty. Well, man, it's a good one today. We're almost at 2 hours. Should probably call her pretty quick. But
I hope people learned some stuff. I hope it helped. Feel welcome to jump on to the comments, Devin's groups, over on Reef to Reef. If there's any questions, you know, especially if you're trying to plan out a peninsula.
No, definitely. Yeah, if you are watching the replay and you want peninsula stuff, feel free to comment below. Dedicated Reefer, thank you for the 49 super chat. I appreciate it. Andrew from Australia, congratulations on winning yourself a sweet Dostronic. All right, man. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, as always, hit the like button. If you're new, make sure you subscribe. A shameless self-plug, I started an Etsy store last night that I'm going to start loading up with cool ReefDudes designs, so if you want to check some out, check it out later. If you need bulk shirts or hats, Ryan's your man. If you want a one-off ReefDudes ones, there's my Etsy store that I started last night. Awesome, guys. All right, have a wonderful evening. Thanks for hanging out tonight, Ryan. Thank you for being my guest, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thank you.